All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. If everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone, quick roll call. Mayor Mosher is here. Trustee Lefebvre. Here. Trustee Crawford. Trustee Wolf. Here. Trustee Smith. Here. Treasurer Doucette. Here. DPW Superintendent Wolf. Here. Clerk McQuay. Here. CEO Ruckert. Here. And Attorney France. Here. Everybody's accounted for. Make the motion to approve the minutes from August 10th, August 14th, and August 24th. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, carried and approved. Before we get into public comment, can all those in the audience please raise your hands if you are here to discuss the parking that is uptown? Okay. So before we get into that, I'm going to bring up my phone for this because internet's not working. Okay, so first off, I just want to read, it was ordinance number 37 that was passed into local law number 37. This is back in 2004. Was it, Rose?
I don't know.
Somewhere along those lines. I believe it was around the time the village abolished the judge, the justice. And just so everybody can hear what it states, it says that the parking of vehicles in any of the following locations is hereby prohibited. And it's the first one, which is A, that states the east side of Main Street from a point beginning 100 feet south of Jefferson Street, extending 10 feet south thereof.
I hate to interrupt you, Jim, but you're reading that wrong. Or you're reading into that law wrong.
Okay.
Because it's 100 feet south is where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Then it talks 10 feet south of that, there's no parking.
Correct. So
it's not talking about that 100 feet.
Correct. So, first off, I'd like to apologize to all the business owners and to the community because myself and Officer Yancek, who's the OIC, the officer in charge, read the law wrong. We interpreted it wrong. The way it was written, I read it a couple times and didn't think anything. I thought that it said 100 feet. But the way it was written, I misinterpreted it. It is from 100 feet south from starting at Jefferson, and then it's a 10 feet, so I'd assume that's right along where the bank is. And then local law states that there's 20 feet, or New York state laws, it's 20 feet from an intersection that there's no parking. So I guess it would be probably the last 30 feet before you hit Washington is where there would be no parking. So that, what that situation addressed was actually coming up on from Washington, and then you turn to pull out, you could see better, instead of actually Jefferson Street. So I do want to apologize, that was my action alone. Wasn't anybody else on the board. I did notify the board of the local law and that we were enforcing it, and I had John go ahead and do it, but again, I was wrong. So I will open up the public comment for those first that are here to discuss the parking uptown. I believe we can come to some type of agreement that helps so that people can see when pulling around here, and also help with parking for the business district. So first off, Mr. Cohen.
That's me. My name is Patrick Cullen. The redlined area is sort of curious in that it totally eliminates all parking in front of a business building that I own. That's address is 10 Main Street. It's that little post building up there, and it renders it unusable. So then it totally devastates the business of Rebecca Ellis. directly there so that they can go into their store. So anyway, it was based on those two things that I would like those changed back. I can see though, however, if you're walking up the sidewalk on the south side of Jefferson Street, where that sidewalk comes out on the main street, you shouldn't be walking into a parked car. So, I don't think anybody would mind from that sidewalk to the corner of that being a red lined area. It happens to coordinate right with a little break in the curb. But, in the future, when things are done like this, it would be nice if we had conversation with the board and affected businesses. It doesn't just affect our business. We brought up 9 complaints today from various other businesses in town who aren't real happy. And it's affected some of the income of some of those businesses also. So when something happens that it affects the income of private citizens, and it really generates an anti-business atmosphere, it's something that should be addressed right away. So, Rick Lefebvre and I and our wives and families have been studying ways for decades to try to create jobs in this town. And that's most important. It's more important than somebody's business or something like that. We need to help maintain and create jobs and work together. And last time I was here, I mentioned that we've lost over 400 jobs in this township since 1980. And if that all happened overnight with one business, it'd be tragic. It'd be front page news of the Buffalo paper. But it sort of crept up on us. And we don't want to lose any more. And we want to create good job opportunities. The people that own these historic buildings in the downtown Cattaraugus, they deserve a good atmosphere so that someone considering coming in and buying a building and opening a business would be encouraged, not discouraged. So.
Colleen?
Well, I have similar thoughts. Anytime any parking is taken away from our downtown, it does have a effect on a lot of the businesses, not just the one right in front of it. I have, I've been asked, asking for communication on downtown business parking for a long time, and I really wanna be actively involved in any decisions. It started, years ago with handicap locations, but anytime any parking is thought to be taken away, I feel the business owners deserve to talk about it and work out a plan. There's a lot of different options if we work together.
Great. All right. Javin, were you here to? No. Okay. Mr. Bonsford, are you discussing the parking uptown?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for putting the lines on, but I guess that's not the right thing to do tonight. I've been trying to get the village board to put lines for the people could park straight instead of every which way. And I think you've helped that quite a lot. I can see the issues that they're bringing up that should be addressed.
Yes. All right, we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Just handling everybody that's discussing the uptown parking. Mrs. Bonner, are you here to speak?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just as a private citizen, losing any parking is such an inconvenience for shopping. I mean, I have parked up in that area to go to the drugstore. On certain occasions, there are a lot of cars in the area. If there is a law, in fact, in place from New York State that states parking must stop at a certain location, I understand that, okay. But pulling out all of lots does not necessarily limit the visibility from the corner of Jefferson onto 353 South or North, because the railroad tracks create a problem as well, because there's a dip there, and it's also, I mean, people, I think for years, I've lived out here almost 40 years, and I can see, you know, so many of the corners are difficult to maneuver around. Another thing that concerns me is the sign that is in the cement, in the sidewalk, is placed in an area that really limits the width of the sidewalk, from where the sign is posted to the business behind it, which I believe is Rebecca's, and her stairs and whatnot, because we do have people that are in wheelchairs in town, and I'm wondering if that was given any consideration. If that sign must remain, can it be moved closer to the curb? Because that really limits that space there. And also, with your apology, are you going to restore some of the parking there?
Well, that's what we're going to discuss here in a second, after I
Okay.
hear everybody's comments in regards to the parking.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Pasquarella?
Okay, I'm here about the parking also. My main concern, you said something about there's a mistake on South and North. So are you saying that the parking spaces should have been taken away somewhere else?
Yes, the parking should have been taken up here, or up at the top of Jefferson. It's 20 feet from the curb. That's New York State law, that there's no parking all around the curb, 20 feet radius, with any intersection or crosswalk.
Okay.
And then, but what the law states for the parking is in the 100 feet right here, it should go down 100 feet, and then there's a 10-foot extension, and that's where there's not to be parking, which, if it's 100 feet, that'd be right where the bank is, and then 20 feet to the curb, so that would eliminate all the parking right in front of the bank.
Okay, so I guess I'm here for that previous meeting when you put those no parking signs up there, and for that meeting here. Because I don't feel we should lose any parking spots. I mean, if there's any way to keep a parking spot. I mean, I know what you're saying, you know, now it sounds like, in a way, it sounds like we're saying, okay, we're supposed to have those, but we're losing them here. We can't really afford to lose parking. On Wednesdays, the food pantry next door to me takes most of my parking spots. Last fall, one of my customers was in a nursing home for 2 months. I lost that business for 2 months, plus I had to take care of her for 2 months. Yeah. But I mean, so what happens is that when you take a parking spot from somebody else, they're just gonna move somewhere else, and we're gonna have trouble. A lot of our citizens are old. Cattaraugus is a hard enough town to get around with vehicles or walking in the winter at the hillside. But I'm just asking, whatever we can do, keep whatever parking we can keep. Because for my business, I depend on parking.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think with your guys' help, that both the board, myself, and business owners, we can come up with some type of agreement that'll provide safety and be able to help with people to see, but also limit the amount of parking or lose any type of parking as well. I think we have quite a few solutions or options to choose from. First off, I don't know in regards to employees for all the business owners. And I mean, this is up to Mr. Cullen because it's his parking lot up at the top of the railroad tracks, right at the bottom of West Street. I don't know if more individuals are able to park there as far as, because I mean, you figure the bank has typically, 5 employees? I know, Mr. Cullen, you try to park up top so that you're not taking any parking. Jenny Lee, I would say, probably has 2. I mean, Rebecca, her hours are limited, but 1. But altogether, probably we have around 10 employees, or 10 people taking up parking spots. If we could come up with a solution so that we can free up those spots, that'll definitely help with customers to be able to park all around. Because I know probably for you, Ray, right there on Washington with you, the drugstore, Mark,
Christian bookstore.
Christian bookstore, and the
Food pantry.
food pantry, that, parking spots get taken up very quickly all around there. And probably would even utilize some of the ones down here. And same for the bank. The bank takes, you guys have a lot of people always coming in and out. as far as solutions that I can think of that we could implement, for one, would be to see about trying to create more parking. And maybe if we're able to help with the employees to park somewhere and business owners to park somewhere, so that helps that your customers are able, that provides even more parking for customers. I think that's a win-win solution. Colleen, I know when I spoke with you, we discussed briefly, or a little bit, about right at the top of Jefferson next to the railroad. But I don't know, you said there's a long story that goes along with that, who actually owns it. I was filled in a little bit, I don't know if, I guess the IDA owns it, but I guess the individual that owns the apartment complex right next to it, I guess has an easement or whatever, because he put in a new sidewalk and did all this work or whatever the case may be. So I don't know if that's your guys's or not.
I approached the railroad, and they offered to lease that triangle, and we paid $1,500 to lease that from the railroad. But then Mr. Gross said, no, I'm gonna develop that for parking for my hotel, or for my apartment. So we just never went beyond that. So
Okay.
that's all his,
That's all his, okay.
his area.
I don't know about the old bush lot. I don't know if we're able to get in contact with who owns that and if we're able to help with create parking, if that would help more.
That being a brownfield, the state doesn't want anybody parking on there. Like a junk auto place automatically imputes a possible pollution. So that's under supervision in New York State, still as a brownfield. My wife's brother owns that and is unable to use it.
Is he gonna be selling it or?
Has he looked into any brownfield opportunity area grants that are available for redevelopment?
I'm sure he'd be glad. No, he wouldn't be glad. He's very discouraged about it.
Mm-hmm.
He was told that when he purchased it from the village that it had active railroad siding. Well, that was 6 years ago, and there's still no railroad ability. So the company he bought to locate there, it's still in Ohio. And I'm not sure it'd be a wise decision for him to move it here, not knowing, I mean, this is the end of a short line railroad that hasn't been very consistent, so he needed railroad siding.
So, I know I had a lot, I mean, besides the complaints that have been brought forward, there has been quite a few compliments in regards to people pulling up on Jefferson and being able to see. So I mean, with the law states it's the 20 feet. So with reducing it down to the 20 feet, we're able to get, that opens up probably 2 parking spots, that is what it would do. So 2 more parking spots in front of Rebecca's.
How about the white building?
Well, the white building right there, with it being right next to the curb, the law would be 20 feet. I mean, if
Well,
somebody,
I can't rent that if nobody can park in front of it.
the issue with that would be New York State law, but also with our insurance. If somebody were to get into an accident out there, and because they claim that they can't see when somebody's actually parked there, and the village isn't doing anything to enforce it, then the village itself is held liable for it. And our insurance company would not cover a dime for it. It would be solely on the village. And as far as I know, our reserves and everything, we don't have in excess of $1 million to handle, even if it's a couple $100,000 suit.
But the action you took in redlining that area did not solve the visibility problem. You still have to inch out and look up the hill to see what's coming at you from over the railroad tracks. And then if someone's coming up that hill and they're in front of the bank going 35 miles an hour, you can't see until you get your nose out there to see what's going on. That didn't help at all, that redlining that entire area.
Well, I understand your viewpoint. However, though, I think we're gonna disagree on that because I know that I've come up Jefferson a lot and being able to see right away, it helps. It's not 100%. I mean, of course, people are hammering through the village, coming up Main Street by the bank. Yeah, you're not gonna see it, but it definitely helps as far as with visibility, more than what it was. But I'm gonna ask the board what you guys see as far as solutions with what we can do.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
How do you determine where the 20 feet starts? Our curbs are rounded in the corners. Are you starting from Jefferson Street, or are you starting from beyond a potential crosswalk? There, where does that 20 feet start?
It starts after the crosswalk. Vehicle and Traffic Law 1202 specifies that there can be no parking within 20 feet of a crosswalk, and a separate portion of the law, I don't have the citation on hand, creates a crosswalk by operation of law at every T intersection. And so it would create one that goes across Jefferson, and I believe it also creates one that goes across Main Street on either side of Jefferson. And so it would have to start after the crosswalk created by operation of law there.
So will lines be painted for a crosswalk?
Right across Main Street?
Usually crosswalks by operation of law aren't required to be painted. That's the village's decision now.
What about the curb? Will the curb be dropped at the corner of Jefferson and Main Street, going across Main Street? Because right now the curb is a flat curb, isn't it? Going straight.
You're talking about creating a crosswalk that's actually designated
Yeah, it's
and
dropped.
painted in. I'm just saying that there's one by operation of law, regardless of whether or not there's actually the curbing, the painting, or
Gotcha.
anything for one.
I just think that we have a tiny little town, and from what I understand, the state, I know I don't want them to come in and they'll do all crazy stuff, but I feel like we as a group can come to a agreeable conclusion, and I think that taking parking in front of the bank doesn't help this solution, so I don't know where that came into play tonight.
And if that's the law.
That's the actual law that,
If
So
why can't that law be
local-
changed? How
That's
is that a
local
just
village
law?
law.
correct.
So
I don't know if
that's
that's,
something that you guys could vote to change.
we would need to discuss it with the state. I don't know if the state, with it being a state road, if they implemented saying, okay, this is what it needs to be. Because, I mean, when we had to paint and everything, we had to talk with the state to make sure that we can go. Because originally they're supposed to, because they own the road.
Okay, so did you look at the state's, okay, time out. When the state did the bricks, they gave the village, I believe, the right to paint the lines where they saw fit. So there were drawings done of where the lines should be on our streets. And none of that, I don't think, was referenced to, and I'm sure maybe people weren't aware of that. So there's maps of how the paint is supposed to be. And then, at that time, the angles of the white paint here on this side of Main Street were angled more so that when you did come up Jefferson, you could see better. So I'm not saying that they're not angled like that, or are, I have no idea. But overall, like, throwing out, we're gonna take parking in front of the bank, or not give parking back in front of there, taking more, it doesn't solve the problem. And our employees are only there during weekdays, like weekends it's issues. Like tonight, right now, during meeting hours, I don't have employees at work, but there's no parking. Like, I feel like there's a lot of different issues, and it can't be a quick decision.
Agreed.
A lot of planning needs to go
And-
into it.
Just because there's a law doesn't mean it should be enforced. For instance, ordinance number 1, Village of Cattaraugus, says there should be no notorious characters in the village, so we'd all have to leave. Ordinance number 2 is that you provide public washroom facilities for everybody in the village. I mean, it's up there somewhere. So, I mean, just because there might be a local law or something, doesn't mean it should go enforce it.
What's the width on those parking? What do you gotta do between the spacing?
12 feet. I think it was 12 feet. When we marked this up here, because it was marked, the state did come back in and put the diagonal parking. What they told me, if they come in and mark the road, they will post it X amount of feet, I believe it's 100 feet from the corner in, and they will put parallel parking in if they come mark it, is what they told me. If we want the parking like that, we have to mark it. Now it's marked with tape, so I pretty much had to go back over the tape, because if you start relaying it, then you got the tape, the paint marks, trying to make it neat as it was.
I mean,
So if we got 12 feet, if you figure roughly, we took 55 feet out, that's what I measured today, give or take, the tape measure. we probably could put 3 back in and be within, you know,
That would give,
somewhat compliability.
that would give at least one to you, wouldn't it, Matt, if we went 3?
But how about one parallel there?
See, I don't know if that.
Well, see, I just drawn this here on my piece of paper, and I got to thinking about that, we could put 2 parallel up here and put 1 more back in, but I don't know who wants to be the sorry person who wants to park on the angle in the wintertime.
Right.
I mean, with sliding.
Well, with snow on the road, nobody pays attention to the parallel.
We
Probably.
put 3 back in there. You probably could squeeze 4, but you're getting tight to the corner again.
I would say 3 would be max.
You couldn't shrink them down to like 8.5 feet? 12 seems a bit excessive.
Well, the ones we painted on Washington Street, I'm getting complaints because they're too narrow. But the idea behind the lines, in my whole point of view, is the lines are to get you to drive in the way you're supposed to, not come uptown and make the big loopy-loo and take 4 spots. That has corrected that problem on Washington,
Yeah,
It has helped, I think.
I
okay?
agree.
We could probably shorten them up. If you wanna shoot for 3, but my suggestion is 2-hour parking only. That way, somebody's not parking there. You know, it's 2 hours is plenty enough to get, I would think, to get your hair done, 2 hours is plenty enough to do what you gotta do.
Business owners, what do you guys say to 2-hour parking?
What it's gonna do is it's
And
gonna
let's
keep the
discuss
vehicles
one.
moving up here on this end of town, and maybe keep that end of town a little bit. But,
I would like to get Rebecca Ellis's input on the 2 hours. I can see limited parking.
well, 2 hours, I mean, it's, to me, of course, I don't go get my hair cut, so. I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
not the, it's
I
not the.
have to say, some take more than 2 hours, so it depends on how strictly you're enforcing that. So maybe,
Well, all it is, a reminder is, because I've heard both sides of the fence on this up here. There's people that are praising, oh my God, it's so much nicer, you can pull up there, you can stick your nose out and not get wiped out by a semi. It's great, it's wonderful. Well, what the hell's the matter with you, why'd you take it out, you know? So, you're on the bubble, just would maybe keep people moving out there. You know, hey, I can park here, you know, boom, 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 and that's, I would think that there would be good. You know,
So just along this, the east side of Main Street, you have
just
to.
probably
have
2 sides would probably cover more than enough to take care of business.
What about the people that live up there though? There are tenants in the apartments.
Well,
They can't park there during the winter.
there's that, and there's, the one I guess is the worst one is whoever owns the Suburban that likes to park about a foot away from the curb, and it's tall, and it really does knock the view out. See, when I talked to the guy from the state, I said, well, what about compact car parking only? Alright. Now we got a judge puts a compact car. You know, where do we draw the line? Now we're gonna have an officer sit there with a tape measure and say your car can't be no more than
Right.
10 feet, you know, you can't park there, you gotta park over here, so. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just throwing out suggestions, everything we need to do will get done, it's just gonna look kinda silly with all the lines up there.
The other issue when the zoning board was here, if you go to the other side of Jefferson, that curb is on line with where everybody's bumpers would be parking. Because that curb extends further out. Technically, you can pull ahead farther up there.
Whereabouts?
You have the stop sign here, and you go another probably
The
12,
curb by the
15
railroad
feet where the
tracks,
curb
yeah.
actually ends on that side. And the road to 353 comes in and starts. So that, if you look parallel down from that corner there, you're actually on line with everybody's bumpers. I mean, it's the edge of the parking on the other side of Jefferson Street.
Are we able to, John, do you know, are we able to move that move that up, I should say, or towards the actual corner, or is it put there because of a crosswalk? And that's why it says stop right there.
Stop sign
I
right by the
don't,
crosswalk.
I don't ever remember that one up there ever being painted. Maybe it was.
There's a sidewalk there and then the stop sign right next to it.
Well,
So you gotta stop at the stop sign and you gotta nose out, no matter what.
I know I talked to John just before we came in about the lot between the driveway that goes behind the buildings. That would go out behind Jenny Lee and stuff. Between that driveway and railroad tracks is a grassy area. that is, what would you say, John, 1.5 to 2 feet higher than the driveway?
Yep.
And I asked him if he thought maybe we could cut that grade down, that we'd have to get permission from IDA, because they own that frontage off the tracks. And cut that down to grade of the driveway, and then we could put parking in there, you know, at an angle. You could probably get at least 6 in there to add extra parking to the village for the workers for Jenny Lee, Rose, you know, somebody else, you know, maybe the residents, you know, just an idea.
Rick and Bo, what are your guys' thoughts?
I didn't know about that area, if they could really open up 6 spots, along with the parallel parking, I like, giving it extra couple spots. I don't know about the timed parking, I don't know if that would fly so much.
Just a suggestion,
But it's
just to
suggestion.
keep people moving off that corner, I mean, it's.
The Suburban is a tenant of mine, and I never knew that was an issue, and I can easily have them park somewhere
Well,
else. So,
if-
yeah,
if-
individually helps,
Well, that'll help, I
It's a
mean,
Noah's son.
yeah.
if we can keep, you know, it's like everything else in the perfect world, okay, we'll park the vehicles as they go in height, but, you know, you get a vehicle like that, I don't even like parking a village truck up there, because you cannot, the bigger the vehicle, it's tougher to maneuver and see around there. I mean, it's a nasty intersection, I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Well,
Washington is a lot easier, because actually the curve of the hill helps you down coming onto Washington 353, because you've got, but also too, you got big trucks that come up through, they gotta make that swing to get up through. It's kinda tedious for them to be able to see, but you can't govern who parks where. I mean, you got people that gotta go to the bank, they gotta come to the clerk's office, you know, I mean, that's one thing you just can't do.
Right.
And there's no other way of sending them around the village, I mean, you know. I don't know, I guess you're,
I don't think there's ever been available parking for,
there's never, it's not ever what you wanna call, gonna be perfect or whatever, but.
Well, for this instance, could you please give me one parking space in front of 10 Main Street, that white building? And then maybe restore it down toward Rebecca's. But to not have any parking in front of that building is affecting my income. I'm paying taxes on that building, and been paying water and sewer fees. And I've had a tenant in there, and I just lost 2 tenants that were thinking of renting it.
If you consider maybe tearing that building down and making that more parking for your tenants that you have over, what is it, town?
If you wanna buy a building for parking, look at mine. I'd sell mine for parking.
The entire lot next to the hotel is available for parking, the entire lot.
Oh, down there?
And where the railroad depot used to be up here, it's owned by the Cattaraugus County IDA. Just as you cross the tracks on the left where those big pine trees are. The IDA permits the village do whatever they want to with that lot. You could park 100 cars in there.
Just a couple things, that I think it's great that we've got this engagement here and constructive conversation going. I think that there's several answers, it's a matter of working our way through it. One of the things that I see is that John brought up the idea of compacts. And maybe it isn't that you say compact parking, it's no SUVs and no trucks on that side, because I know that I've had a problem pulling out of Washington with a big pickup truck in front of the bank, or close to the bank, and that is an issue. And I think that what we could do is, and it's a matter of working our way through the process, is put up some signs that just say no SUVs or pickup trucks. And so that we would get smaller vehicles in there. I think that it's also that we should, our village is on quite a hill, as we all know. And I sort of liken it to San Francisco with snow. And they'd have real problems if they had snow in San Francisco. And we've got to work our way through that, and that's why we have the diagonal parking rather than parallel parking. When they came in here to redo the road, which they were going to eliminate the brick completely, the state was, And I fought then with a whole group of people to put the brick back in, because what they wanted to do is when they blacktopped it, they were going to go to parallel parking on both sides of the street, and we would have been dead in the water. We'd have people that would be just having accident after accident all through the winter. So, we became very boisterous on that, and we got the brick back in. So, I'm not sure that even though there is a state law, there should be a process where we should be able to get certain variances to those state laws because of the circumstances of the construction of this village, which was laid out in the 1800s. We can't straighten this out, we can't flatten it out. So that everybody we could get back to a more reasonable number of parking spots, including one in the bank, because I see people coming up for the banking, for the pharmacy, for whatever they have to do with the village. Possibly they go up to Rebecca's and such. And the other thing is the bigger vehicles. I don't know about you, but as I approach 105, I find it's harder to open the door going uphill versus if I park on the west side, I can open the door going downhill. In the bigger vehicles, it isn't that hard. So if we had smaller vehicles on that side, I just think it makes it easier for the customers coming in. And but I think that if we look at alternatives and alternative parking, it's just like you brought up the IDA. We recently had a couple floods here in the last 2 years, and it was related to the situation with the trail. I got a hold of the IDA this year and explained the situation to Corey Wixer, and 2 weeks ago we had somebody come in with a big piece of machinery to hopefully rectify that situation. And I know it was the IDA talking to Bob Digman, it isn't talking to Bob Digman directly. I also, in the course of your conversation, Pat, you said that your brother-in-law bought that property with the understanding of having an active siding. But that property right now, there's a certain status that it's been put into because they don't have the reason to run it. I have no problem approaching the IDA and saying, geez, we have a viable business that would move here if we activated that. And I think that, that's one of the things that I get out of this meeting is that we have conversation, ideas start to pop and light bulbs start to get brighter. Just like what Wirt and Jason were saying about over here, we need to look at that piece of property and see, is that a viable answer? That the answers are here. It's a matter of us trying to figure out and then configure them and work our way through the process to have it put together. I think that it's significant that we have a parking problem, even though we took away a few sites. We didn't used to have any parking problem when they took out the post office because nobody was coming uptown for a long while. That really took a drop in the people participating. So now we've got, for a variety of reasons, we've got more people participating up here, and we need to work our way through it. And I think that with the proper dialogue and the proper creativity and looking at things differently, we can come up with some pretty good answers. So I'm sort of excited about this meeting. It wasn't one that we all wanted to work our way through, but we need to work our way through to make this community more viable.
I agree with you, Rick, I agree with you, because we certainly want to encourage business. We have several empty buildings right in a beautiful little town, and if we could come up with a creative solution for our parking, I agree, it's a good dialogue to have. Encourage more business.
I think that, but it's a process, and you just gotta keep on pushing, and sometimes what I find is when you have no, no, hell no, and then all of a sudden it becomes yes. And the same thing with the state. I mean, the state, I feel that, I don't know if that's true or not, but it would seem like, you got this based on this situation in which you have a flat community. We don't have a flat community, and as a result, we've got a different set of issues. Is there a way to work our way through a variance on that so that that the liability issue is covered because we got a variance on it, and that we've done some good common sense in laying this out to make it work. And because I look at Rebecca's place, and she has worked very hard to get that place up and running, and I'm very happy to see what her success is. I don't wanna see people not having the opportunity to go in the bank either. And, or any of the other businesses. So it's just a matter of, I think that we've gotta look at the situation and start defining some parameters and some alternatives that we should pursue. I'll shut up now.
So,
Can I say one more thing?
absolutely.
This doesn't have to do with parking, but I wanna say that you and John has done a fabulous job behind all these buildings on that side, cleaning it up and fixing drainage. It's gonna be amazing. What a difference it'll be on a positive.
Well, thank you. How does Wednesday you guys get done at noon, right, at the bank?
Yeah, but I have a meeting out of the area on Wednesday morning till Friday night this week,
Okay.
a bank meeting.
What I would like is for myself, another board member, and maybe with John as well, and with the business owners, I would like to go over the law that for parking that we have, and we can go out and we can check all the laws which states where you can park, where you can't, and see what's valuable, what makes sense, what doesn't, and come to some solution, and bring it back to the board, and then we can amend it or create a new resolution for that.
We can't all be a part of that.
If we do, then we have to make it a public meeting. If we have just like a
You just have to
meeting-
announce in advance if you all wanna be there.
if we,
Give the 72 hours advance notice.
what's next Monday looking like for you guys?
Come on board.
I won't be back.
You won't be back?
We're both on a meeting down in Hudson River, leaving Wednesday morning, she'll be back, Monday. If on Monday, I won't.
When will you be back?
Probably a week from Wednesday.
So would next Wednesday work then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Ray, I know that, I don't wanna say do it right at noon, I don't know how your lunch hour is. Is that give you enough notice to have somebody cook or,
Well, I know ahead of time, we'll might be able to figure out something.
okay? And then if, I don't know, Colin or Pat and Ray, if you guys can get in contact with, say, Mark Pritchard, any of the business owners, Jenny Lee, all of them, and I would like to go over everything and we can work together to make a great positive solution. If so, if you can get back to me tomorrow and let me know, I will let the board know and see who's available. And if other people wanna attend, so if we have a quorum on the board, then I need to give, 5 days notice?
72 hours, 3 days.
3 days notice, so at least if I give it a week's notice and everybody knows and whatever the case may be. So you guys are aware though, are you gonna be available?
On the 23rd?
Yes.
Yes.
It'd be good if we could come up with a committee, going forward as well. I mean, it's not just parking uptown. I mean, Franklin Street's a mess as well. When I had to go drop my nephew off for a game, that was crazy to see how everybody was parking on other people's lawns. That's not okay. So I think, it's more than just parking uptown, but I would like to create something, and we can do that.
I believe it's Southern Tier West that has a team of people that, upon invitation, will go into communities and study all the traffic pattern and make recommendations.
Do you know, is it for a fee of some sort, or?
I don't know, I was at a planning board educational thing, but it was well over a year ago, and I heard the girl talk, actually it was Jim Earhart's daughter.
Okay.
Who gave it, I can contact her or something, but in some communities, they've made some pretty drastic changes and very sensible, so.
Okay.
Hopefully, parking is going to be an increasing problem as years go on, as some of these.
That would be a great thing if it
Buildings get
happens.
sold and businesses come here, so.
So then for the immediate solution, I would say for right now, as far as for parking, for what I had go through as far as parking right up here, is that, John, if you can, you and your guys, I know the next few days are gonna be nice, if you're able to correct it so that it's to the 20 feet, and if you're able to put 3 parking spots back up there, that would be appreciated. Does anybody else have
Would you be taking that off with a pressure washer, John, or do you have to take some sort of goop or something to get that paint off?
I would sandblast, wouldn't you?
Can you just paint over it with red?
Paint over it.
No.
Paint over the brick's red.
Whatever you want, John.
What, you know what, John, it's up to you, sir.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
As long as it doesn't dissolve the bricks.
Well, that's the problem, if I use something braces enough to get it off the bricks, I'm gonna mess the bricks up.
Well, there is some
So,
chipping right there.
Does the pressure washer do it?
I doubt it. That's
You wanna wait till after our meeting, a week from Wednesday?
Well, I don't, if you guys wanna, I mean,
No,
if you guys wanna have the parking done,
Mess.
at least restore the few
Mess.
spots.
Are you busy tomorrow, or?
Tomorrow I am busy, that's why I was asking for Wednesday to meet with you guys. Unless. So I mean,
Wait from Wednesday, maybe
Well-
we'll just wait on everything till then.
Do we have a pressure washer, John?
Yes, sir.
okay,
Good.
so I will, more than likely what'll end up happening is, I'll create a committee then for parking. And I would ask that all the business owners would partake of that. And, you know, myself along with another board member, we will work on, you know, and of course we come to the board and bring back notes and what we agree to work and all of that. So that it's a positive solution and affects positively on both ends as far as safety and also for the business owners.
Thank you.
Does this sound rational, reasonable? Wonderful. Thank you guys for your input, and again, I apologize for what happened. Didn't mean to give everybody's blood boiling. All right, continuing on with the public session. Jeb, you're up.
Hi. I have some water bills that I have, and they've been estimated, well, computer generated for the last year, since last September. And all of them are about 15 or 16,000 gallons to 20,000 gallons every 3 months. And
That's a lot of water.
yeah, and my meter reading is 278,002 as of today, and the last time I had an actual reading it was at 290. So I've been charged for almost 100,000 gallons I have used over the last year and 3 months.
Do you know how come there would be, what's
I
your resident?
58 North Franklin Street.
58.
I don't have a reader on the outside of my building, so they have to come in and read it, but no one's there during the daytime because we work. So they leave cards, and I take the cards and I drop them in the slot. Obviously, they don't make it in time or something, I don't know, because it's just computer generated instead of the numbers I give.
So,
If I don't have a read, the computer estimates the
what the annual?
consumption is, yep.
Okay.
If he's returning cards and it's still got a computer estimate on it, then that means the billing has already been accomplished, and the card is being returned after the date on it.
Okay. What do we see as a solution to this? Is it just that the card's not being returned in time, so therefore it goes ahead with the?
I didn't even get a card last month, that's the other thing.
Thank you, thank you.
Stop it, yeah.
There was no card last month, there was no card left on my door even. That's why I found it weird when I got the bill, and I was like, I didn't even get a card, and that's when I started noticing my bills are actually higher than they should have ever been. Because I have other water bills in town, and those are averaging around 160 a month, and this one's at 131, and then going back, it's all been 130 a month. Until I got back to an original bill that I was at 96 a month.
Is there anything that addresses this in the new water law that we passed in regards to if an individual brings the card in a timely fashion, or is there a deadline for that, or is the?
There's always been a date stamped on the card of when it needs to be returned by. Because
Okay.
I need time, we hope for the meter reads by the DPW to be done the first week of the month. Then that leaves the second week of the month, it gives everybody a week to return their meter cards. And then that gives me 2 weeks to enter the meter reads, do the double check on those, do the billing, do the double check on that, process the bills, get them printed, folded, stuffed,
Okay.
and get it out so that it's out for the first.
If there can be a confirmation from the water department that he really has been overestimated, they go and read the meter and they're satisfied that it's that case, then the board has the power to take whatever he's overpaid from previous ones as a credit towards his bill.
My understanding
That's a-
would be we'd only be able to go back to the beginning of the fiscal year.
That may be the case, though, yes. There would be some limitation as to the period of time you can go backwards
Okay,
on
so that would
it.
be.
It might only be one billing cycle even.
Okay.
If you want, I can give you an opinion as to how long. I don't know if the law says specifically how far back you can go.
If you could.
Yeah, I can certainly do an adjustment on the account if we find that the read needs to be adjusted.
Are you, what works for you as far as where like I could have John or Tom go or Toad go in and check the water meter for
Yeah,
you?
that's fine.
Well, what time works for you because of,
I work every single day from 7 in the morning till about 4:30,
what time do you get home usually?
about 5,
About 5?
just before 5. normally.
Okay. If you can provide your number to Rose.
Yep.
And then I can have John, follow up with you and, set up a time they can go in and read it. And then we can go ahead and adjust it accordingly. So
That'll work.
for however long the law states that we're able to,
Yeah.
I feel that that's reasonable.
That's fine, that's reasonable.
Okay.
Now, going forward, what exactly, how can we solve this? So that I don't get estimated every single month and have to come up here every single
Quarter?
Quarter.
Well, if the guys can't read your meter, then you would need to return the card by the date
Well, I
on the
mean-
card. Or hopefully the new meters will be in.
That's another thing.
I'm dreaming that they might be in for the December read, I don't know, but
Oh, the new meters for, well, because the 24th is when we're gonna have a decision by CDBG. If we're approved, then we can go ahead and then we can start the bid to get the meters and all of that.
The other question I had about the meter thing is, in the thing I got in the water bill, it said you guys are gonna charge about 123 a year for the new meters to be put in.
That would be 67. 67. The original scope was for 4 million, and that would be $123 additional annually.
Yeah, so now it'll be a service charge of 60 something, about,
It depends on how it all works. Right now, we're not at that stage to raise water rates, because right now the money we had was a grant from CDBG, just Community Development Block Grant.
yeah.
And then the rest of the water project for the transmission lines, that's gonna be about 2.6 as the, what's said in the,
Gotcha.
in the letter that you received. And so when that goes through and all the funding and all that, then that's when it'll take action, that water rates.
So that'll be a surcharge, kinda like the sewer benefit charge that we have.
That'd be added on, so the or the $67
Yeah,
taxed on, or that would be included, broken up over the course of each quarter.
okay, so it'd be 67 over a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Over a year, so it'd be broken up in whatever 67 divided by 4 would be.
So it's not actually for the meters, it's for the transmission lines?
It's for the whole water project itself.
Alright, cause I was gonna ask is that when, the meter I have at my house was put in less than 5 years ago. And it was, I'm pretty sure that we had to pay for it when it was put in. I'm
The
pretty
new
sure.
meters that everybody will be receiving is their smart reader, and what will
Yeah.
happen is that they can drive by and they get it right then and there. They don't have to go into your home, they don't have to do any of that. Also, with the new meters, they can let you know if there's a leak going on, besides just seeing, oh, well, my yard is flooded, it'll actually say that there's excess of water, it can tell all of that. So that's the first stage of the water project is meters.
Yeah.
Because the lines that we have, we know we're losing a ton of water. We're losing a ton of water. We have surplus of water because of being in New York State. The ground's just saturated with water. We're very fortunate, but we are losing a ton because of 100-plus-year-old lines. Even through, coming into the villages, just to say.
So besides the first set of lines and everything like that, is there gonna be any more additional costs other than the 67, like further on, if you guys replace it, are you gonna charge more for it?
If what?
If other lines are replaced, like are you gonna, I know you're gonna replace the main line out to the well, right?
All the way out to the spring line, yeah.
So after that, are you guys planning on replacing all the lines in the town too, or in the
No.
village?
No.
That won't become the second phase or something like that
No.
afterwards?
Now, those lines, as far as, John, those lines are solid, are they not?
Pretty much did a lot of work over the years.
Over the years, they've replaced.
No, they do. So, part of South Street, somewhere along the line, they tied in on South Street, that's done. Scott Street, Lincoln Street was done. Waverly's done down to, Waverly's new all the way to the bottom.
Franklin,
Franklin is still part of the old system.
is it?
Part of it is, part of it ain't.
So
So the corner of, from Washington out through to just past the school driveway was all in Maine.
Okay.
Part of Maine up Jefferson, up past your place in there, that's new. Leavenworth is probably Leavenworth and the end of Franklin and,
Ellicott?
Ellicott is the older stuff.
So there won't be another major increase after this main transmission line's put in, basically, is what I'm getting at.
Not foreseeable.
Not in the immediate future. Okay.
So then in regards to resolve your issue, then you're gonna leave your phone number with Rose?
Yep.
And then, John will get in contact with you, and then we will go from there, and he'll confirm, and then we can go ahead and adjust your bill accordingly.
Okay.
All right,
I have a question, please,
yes,
about the meters. Now, when you replace the meter in the house, let's say whoever replaces the meter in the house, you break the line where the meter hooks on in the house. Who has to fix that? You know where the line comes into the house
mhm.
and they break the line, trying to get the old meter off. Who's responsible for fixing that line?
Well, I mean, if with replacing,
we are.
well, with replacing the meters, yeah, I mean, that's all underneath, that'll be underneath the contract.
Because I know down in Olean several years ago, they replaced all the meters, and a lot of the old people had no water because when they went to replace the meter, they broke the line off, inside the basement.
That would be,
And then the old people had to pay for fixing it themselves.
yeah, that would be underneath a contract that we'll work out with whoever the contractor would be, that they would be liable for the case would be taken care of then, and it wouldn't be,
Okay, thanks.
not a problem. Mr. Botsford?
Well, I guess I got in trouble for thanking you for the parking spaces. I think it did take care of everybody parking like this, and so they park straight now at least. I know your answer, because I mentioned this before, but you got 2 parking spaces in front of the hotel. You're handicapped, I've yet to see anybody park there. If you're handicapped, you don't want to park in front of the hotel. I know the bank people always used to park over there, now they can't, there's too
Well,
handicapped.
I'm pretty sure that came from the state level, didn't it, John?
It was.
That's
That's
why
what
the
he told me
curve was
before.
cut out, but
Yeah.
that's
It
not.
seemed like you could appeal to somebody and let somebody see that that's the wrong place for them. Another thing I've noticed is, in that same area, there's been 3, 4 bricks missing recently, and today I noticed there's blacktop in there where the bricks were. And that's what happened to our old bricks, they take the bricks out and do something, not replace them, they put blacktop in there. When the trucks come down that hill and hit the brakes, a lot of pressure sliding those bricks. There's a curb along there where they end, and if there's bricks missing, they're just gonna keep moving and sliding, and the cracks are gonna open up.
The bricks were no longer there.
I know.
And the other day I was doing that road up behind there, there were 3 several good holes there, so I just threw some blacktop in there, I'm thinking about pollen season.
Yeah,
Shoe catchers.
but they ought to be bricks put back instead of blacktop.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
should.
happened to our old road. So, and another thing I wanted to ask you about is the new water law you say
Yes,
you put in. I understand that the homeowner now is responsible for the shut off, which may be at the sidewalk for their supply, is that right? Where it used to be,
What
the
I'm-
village supplied to the meter and including the meter.
Mhm.
And I heard previous DPW superintendents that always fought that, having people take care of their own, because then you got every contractor coming in, digging up the lines, and John's gonna have to be there to watch them, see if they do it right, and you're gonna have a lot of problems with that.
Or if the homeowner even wants to dig it up themselves. I mean, if they own the thing and they haven't breaking their line, why would they wanna pay the hourly rate towards the village to do it when they can just dig it up and splice the main service line into their house with some sharp lights?
It said the village used to be responsible.
Just saying.
It said the village used to
Well,
be
the village has the
responsible.
equipment to do that.
Well, See, this is the bubble that's been here for a long time. It's, since I started here, if we repaired a service, there was no charge. If we put in the service in, there was a charge. But from everything I've been told, we were supposed to be charging right along, but it was one of them things that, okay, didn't get done. So here we